Sarah, blog editor, and I'm here with Fractilians, who you may not know is one of our Neo Tokyo content coordinators. This series of interviews is designed to introduce citizens to their notable community members. So let's roll right in. First of all, welcome, Fractilians. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing good. It's an honor to be here with you and hanging out. And yeah,
I'm excited to do this one. This is one of our first citizen spotlights that's going to be turned into our YouTube 3D avatar videos. So this is fun. We're moving beyond the leads now. But let's get started with your pre-crypto background. So give us a rundown of who you were before you got into Web3.
I was many different characters, to say the least. I guess I started out after university. I was in San Francisco during the dot boom, so I worked in animation firms, startups, but mainly I come from like a artist background, and from there I started teaching. So I dove into teaching in STEM education, and so I lived in Hawaii for a long time, and I worked in for the Women in Tech and STEM and taught digital arts all over the island. So I've worked with teen art centers, I've worked with visual art centers as like a marketer, as a teacher, as a content creator, and mainly as like the crazy artist who like people back in the day when, digital art was like the black sheep of the art family. I was the only person teaching this stuff, and I would be like, let's get a Mac lab. And they're like, why? It's like, because it's awesome, and I'd be teaching how to use these tools and how to actually create art with it. So I was always like, doing that kind of stuff when I just got a puppy. So if you hear a puppy bark, that's my puppy running around. Sorry about that. But so my love and passion has always been around that. So teaching and working with like a lot of different ages, you name it, I've done it. So yeah.
Women in tech. It's an interesting field. It's a weird crossover. I wouldn't actually say I'm in tech. I'm still writing, doing the same thing I was doing pre Web3. But I love to see it. I have a daughter who is a hardcore gamer at 14, awesome. Right? Which is mostly a boy hobby, but the stuff she gets into, is pretty crazy. And she gets into these digital art things, and she shows me the apps and what she's figuring out on her own. And I love to see it. I think it's good to get more women into tech and STEM fields. So it's good to have you here. Give us a story of how you got into Neo Tokyo.
Well, when I entered crypto too. Okay, when I entered crypto about 4 years ago, it was actually through one of the places I was helping out in Maui when I lived there. It was the Love Serve Remember Foundation, which is for Ram Dass. So they're like, hey, look into this NFT thing for us. And then I drove down the rabbit hole, never came back. And then, I basically like from there, I started doing stuff for Wearable Protocol DAO. I did community creator contests, and then I entered Decentraland DAO for about 3 years. I was part of the facilitation squad, doing community advocacy stuff, hosting events, educational stuff, did all their content, marketing, you name it. I did all that kind of, the wear of many hats as well. And then along the way, I was always, in Decentraland interviewing a lot of the creators and stuff. So I was always fascinated with gaming and all that. And of course, you hear through your research and through just like, I don't even know exactly who was the first person, but I think it was a Becker and Elliott videos. And I started listening like, oh, I want to enter this community because I wanted to be part of a community that was so fascinated in building and all of that. So it's always something I've been super interested in. And so I saved up, and finally in July, I saved up and got an S1. So right after your adventure, I was able to enter. And I was so scared because it's so funny. When I bought it and I didn't have my ledger, and I was like, I need to stake this. At least it felt like a little bit safe. And then it was like a month of me freaking out that it wasn't on a ledger. And then when I finally went to where my ledger was and was able to unstake and put it on a ledger, I was very happy to have that. And yeah, and entering Neo Tokyo was a little intimidating, I have to say at first. I was just sitting listening, but when I entered, I really took to the whole idea of like contributing, which is what I've really done all of when I entered crypto, just trying to engage and give back to the community however I could. And joined up with Lee, who's amazing, of course. He's such a character, and Shred It, and helped out with that 2-year anniversary video, and started contributing that way. And that's kind of how and through that, just ended up in this current role, helping out with content and stuff.
I'm curious to hear a little more because I don't think I've gotten to interview. I've interviewed a couple women in the Citadel, but not a lot. So I am curious on that first experience, how because now you are in the group chats with the leads and working on coordinating content and doing all of these things within the Tokyo. But I know that that's a steep rise and a hard climb. Not because there's barriers, but because it's confusing. So what was your experience like? Because I went through a similar thing of just kind of being in there and watching and lurking and trying to figure out how this place works. How did you go from, ground floor to being noticed?
I don't know if I even say I'm still noticed. I'm still a lurker, kind of like observing. But what I try to do is try to listen to and watch all the content, listen to all the AMAs, just like read as much as I can, and then go back through all the things. Like I go through like things 2 or 3 times, just because at first when you first listen to it, like, oh, I get it. And then when you really listen to it, like 2 or 3 times later, once you've kind of gone through and understood, like, oh, Tokyo does so many different, so many facets happening, so many working pieces, kind of making and building this amazing place that we're, that's just I'm passionate about. And that part's been, actually really difficult at first. But me diving in, I've helped other people who I'm like, oh, you might want to check this out. And through me helping others who knew even less, that's kind of helped me to be like, okay, how do I actually explain this place? And to be honest, have a hard time really encapsulating everything that I see here to somebody without boring them and being like, that crypto freak at Thanksgiving, like, what do you do? Oh, do you have 20 hours to listen to me rant? But I think it's really just, like taking your time, diving in. And I really love a lot of the content, the AMA, the DJ, all the stuff that's there. Like really go back to the early ones. Those are really cool too. Go back as far as you can and then start, I always take notes and things like that. And from that, I get a lot of ideas and what other questions I want to ask. And I, follow up questions. And usually my motto is like, if it doesn't scare you, it's not worth doing. So this is that kind of a place you just dive into the deep end, ask stupid questions, even if they're, seem silly. There's so many helpful people, and just going for it no matter what, even if it seems a little bit over the head of what's actually happening. So I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of safe spaces where you can just step up and say, I don't get it. Yeah. But it seems to be perfectly fine to do it here, which is awesome. And I appreciate that. Give us a rundown of your current focus, like where you spend your time now, whether it's outside crypto, outside jobs, or in the where do you spend your day?
All over the place. So let's see. I also have like a part-time Web 2. I just finished out the 3 years at the DAO, so I was spending a lot of time there, and obviously helping with content stuff at Neo Tokyo. But also, I basically when I entered, I started becoming and diving into cross metaverse building. I also worked for Monaverse. I was a 3D modeler and Unity educator. So I love building a cross metaverse build. So I do a lot of that and spend a lot of my time building. So another reason why I love all these communities and listening to how they create their worlds, their storylines, their gameplay, all that kind of stuff I find fascinating because I do it on my own, but in a smaller scale. So I spend, I've been to hackathons. I love going to hackathons, learning and be parts of teams and that kind of stuff. But I spent a lot of my time doing and being parts of a lot of different art shows. Like I was in the Centraland Metaverse Art Festival the last couple of years. I've been a part of Vibe.io. I was one of the artists as part of that. I do a bunch of different things for all the communities that I've connected, and focus a lot on the art component. And I love building worlds. So, and I'm a big time mountain biker. So when I'm away from my computer, I work in the bike industry too. So I work with, in the Web 2 world, I work with about 400 brands from around the world. And so it's really cool. I love that. So I spend a lot of time outside if I can, riding my bike.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So give us your main expertise. If there's, how hard it is to find out who does what in here. So if there's a citizen who's struggling and they want to ask someone a question, what would be a good thing to reach out to Fractilians for?
Oh my God, let's see. I guess it depends on what exactly they're looking for. I'm kind of like one person I really love is Damon Needs to Create. He's such a connector. And I see myself as like a mini connector. Like I love helping in whatever way I can. And I meet a lot of different people and working in so many different communities. connecting them if I can in any way. So, and also facilitating, like helping with a tool or with, since I've done a lot of the 3D stuff, I can help with those kinds of things on a lighter way and connecting them, because I know a lot of builders, having worked with all these, hackathons and build-thons and things like that. So connecting them possibly with other people who can help them with whatever they need as well. But yeah, and of course, the content stuff I love doing, and however I can help in that context as well. But I guess I'm a crazy artist at heart, who wears many hats.
Okay. So then the opposite of that, what do you dislike working on? So what should people not reach out to you for?
Oh, I don't know if there's like a thing I really dislike. Let's see. Normally I'm the one doing interviewing. I don't like being put on the spot too much. I like being like the one who helps, others. I don't like it to be like, oh, you're the only one who can do this. So like, I like working with groups to be like, let's all do this, So I think that's what I don't like being like, oh, it's just you. I like being like, oh, let's collaborate. It's just so much more of a fun working experience for me, which is another reason I love Tokyo. I get to work with all these groups, and it's just that I find really appealing. So that's solo, as an artist, you're solo a lot, but it's so much more fun to work together. So I guess that's my answer. I don't like being all alone working by myself. It's fun working with everyone.
I like that answer. It's you like to collaborate and get other people's input, and I think that's a solid answer. So for people that don't know, and I only know because you are in our group chat for the Citizen Spotlight, and you help us with the social media posts. But for people that don't know in Neo Tokyo, what specifically have you done or do you do within Neo Tokyo that others may recognize?
Well, for what I was sharing earlier, I've helped with the video team division. I helped Lee and that with the 2-year anniversary. And after that, when Firestorm posted needing help with the socials, then I've kind of dove into that role as content, manager and creator. And I work across in helping all the different teams and help coordinate that, help with all the AMAs and hosting all that kind of stuff. And then it's basically a lot of times it's like, you get different things added to that plate and kind of a mixture of all of that together and seeing how I can help. And I mean, my goal, even in like when I was in the DAO, is like, I'm here to be the cheerleader, really, because that's really what I am, like a fangirl of all the stuff the community here is doing. It's really awesome. So I'm just blown away by all the content you guys have done here, the Meet Your Citizens. It's so fun to watch. And that's the kind of stuff that like, it's just the best way to get to know a community, to really what you guys are doing, and through these interviews to really get to know them on a deeper level than just like, oh, this thing. It's like, oh, that background. I love hearing about how they got into here, their rabbit hole journey, all that kind of stuff. So.
Amazing. Yeah. And if you are watching this interview and you found it off X, it was probably posted by Fractilians.
Oh.
So let's go into one of the most difficult questions. And we started this with the leads, but we're going to continue it with all of our citizens that we interview. Give me one word to associate with Fractilians.
Oh, I guess it would be fangirl, like
fangirl.
I really am just like I'm 10 years old at heart, and I'm pretending to be an adult really badly. So like I'm just like in awe of all these builders and creators, and like I just find it all fascinating how things come together. And so I love sharing that and showcasing that magic, that creation. I think that's why being in the education field, it's always been so fun. I've been this crazy facilitator. I'm just there to get to enjoy their amazing creativity. Even when I work with teens to adults, it's just like I feel honored to just be in that space, to like provide that space for that and that kind of environment.
I love it. I think Fangirl's a great one. It's a great place to be a fan in Neo Tokyo. I know I came in and felt so small because it's such a big world and people doing so many big things. But you quickly move away from being a fan to joining up as a team, and it's a good feeling, and I like it. Now you mentioned mountain biking. Let's go outside of crypto, outside of our digital world. Tell us about more about the mountain biking, what you're doing. You mentioned some brands. Give me some hobbies. What you do outside of your laptop.
Oh man, well, I actually was a downhill mountain bike coach for about 6 years. So I don't know if you know,
Oh,
you
wow, that's
wear
fun.
all the gear at a bike park, actually about 3 hours from here. Probably the best one in this country, Angel Fire Bike Park, other than Whistler, which is amazing as well. But so I love, and again, it kind of goes back to this. I love being around, sharing what I love with others. So basically, I get to be this crazy, like, little brown girl teaching these giant Texan boys, like, follow me if you can, like teaching, it's such a joy to get to teach what you love, and also just being outside in these beautiful spaces, and working in the bike industry is awesome. It's very similar in a lot of ways to crypto. It's like as a mountain biker, if you're especially downhill, you're called a dirt gypsy, because you're outside the system. You do whatever it takes to do what you love, which is a lot of crypto. People do all these other things to be in the space to do what they love. So yeah, being in the mountain bike industry, I get to work with, like, we have about 400 brands that we distribute, and it's like I get to work with, just like here, all the different gaming companies there. I get to work with all these 400 different amazing marketing teams and companies and brands, and of course I get awesome gear, and I love it. It's just my happy place. It's like my therapy forever. I remember kidding when I was interviewed at that job. It's like, why do you love mountain biking? I'm like, well, it's my church, really. I go outside, I go look at these beautiful trees, and just like the animals, the mountains. It's just my happy place. So
I love it. It's important to get out, and it's also important to see, who else can relate to it within the Citadel. There's probably another mountain biker in there somewhere that's going to want to meet up and go for a ride. That's all we have for today. That was Fractilians, your content coordinator here at Neo Tokyo, and this is another Citizen Spotlight, and we will be back with another episode next week.